Hello and welcome to the God is a Geek podcast. My name's Adam Cook. I'm your host, the cool one from godisageek.com, and I would like to introduce to you Christopher Hyde. Hello, Chris.
Hello, mate. What does that make me?
And Lyle's here. Hey, Lyle. Are you all right?
Hi, I'm good. Yeah, I'm the crazy wild one from godisageek.com.
I think Chris. I don't want to say what I was going to say. I worry that it'll be offensive, and I don't mean it to be.
You're always offensive.
No, but I really don't mean this to be. Like, this is something I respect. I want to call you the sensible one.
Boring.
That's what I mean. I knew you wouldn't like it.
But all right. I mean, I'll take it. There's worse. There's worse monikers, I suppose.
Like Lewinsky, for example. Well, no, she was wrong, wasn't she?
Indeed.
It was the other way around, wasn't it? It was Bill that was the bastard, wasn't it? There's some retro.
Well, I think she had something to do with it. She had a role to play.
Let's move on. It's a gaming podcast. We're in the middle of August over here in the UK, and despite the fact the weather's not that sunny for me, it's still very hot. So I've turned to video games.
Clammy.
Very much clammy. Yeah, full clammy. But we're going to talk about some games. But let's start off by talking about a game that I think we've all played, possibly. Would you say, Chris?
If it's the
Sorry, Chris, I'm going to have to interrupt you there. Mikhail's just dropped 179 Indian rupees into the live chat there, the super chat, and he says, before I fall asleep, please interrupt Hyde. And he doesn't mean we're boring him, he just means it's late there in India for him. But yes,
he
Chris...
literally doesn't even use the first name. Just...
No.
Well,
a game we have all been playing.
Well, I hope... No, before we carry on, screw that.
Okay.
I hope he either doesn't get to sleep or has a really shit night's sleep.
Oh, that's
that
nasty.
Gets constantly interrupted.
Yeah, that's horrible.
That's nasty. I mean, you could wish that he gets some sort of, I don't know, swelling on his penis, and that would be nicer than wishing someone didn't have any sleep, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but I haven't been sleeping well, so you know.
Oh, well, me neither. I mean, this podcast is brought to you, let's face it, by co-codamol and gout at the moment.
Yeah.
So, like, let's just talk about something that is a far more joyous thing than, well,
I had a
co-codamol's all
sympathy
right,
twinge
actually.
earlier, and I was like, no, don't you fucking dare.
No. If anyone's ever suffered from it, you know. And if not, good, thank God. But something much more joyous, shall we move on to? Tinykin. Which I keep going back and forth on. Is it a terrible name or a good name?
It's right on the cusp, isn't it?
Really is.
I also do the same thing. I also get confused whether it's Tinykin or Tinykins.
It should be Tinykins.
Yes.
I guess it's the Pikmin thing, isn't it? Like they're Pikmin, not Pikmins.
Yeah.
But Tinykins feels like it should. Anyway, yeah.
So is it like really doing it down by saying this is because listen, when you go to the YouTube for the videos, you want a bit, not clickbait, but you want a thing to go, oh, I'm going to click that. And I think I put something like, if Pikmin were a platformer. Is that a disservice? Because it is kind of that, isn't it? But it's not just that.
I don't know if it's really a disservice either, because don't people like Pikmin?
And
platformers, yeah.
I'd be like,
do they?
I'm interested.
Do they like Pikmin? Because it seems that's another one of those series that Nintendo doesn't seem to do much with. So people like it?
I think more people came to it with the deluxe version of 3 that came to Switch, because obviously everyone has a Switch these days. So I think that's helped it.
But Tinykin.
Yeah, I do think there's probably, if you said to a lot of people, it's like Pikmin, that might be too niche a reference for them to understand exactly what it is. Which is why we now need Lyle Carr to tell us, what is Tinykin? Okay,
well, Tinykin, right? It's like a 3D platformer, but crossed with Pikmin. So, it's basically, it's a really just wonderful, joyous 3D platformer that's about as laid back as a 3D platformer could be. Like, there's almost no way to die. There's no enemies. You're a shrunk down little astronaut, and you're in a sort of normal house. I say normal. I don't know if every house has like cathedrals built by bugs in the middle of the room and stuff like that. But essentially, it's like you'll be in a living room and there's an armchair and a TV and a cabinet, and you explore.
It's kind
everywhere.
of like Micro Machines.
Yeah,
as well. Like the worlds remind me of like the Micro Machines. I don't know how familiar you guys are, but like where you drive around on a kitchen table and there'd be like a ketchup bottle falling over, and like
Yeah,
it's kind of an underdone thing when you think about it.
Is.
The kind of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, like it's grounded for the first
it's grounded
person
inside, isn't it? Essentially,
yeah,
it's
but
like,
it's not something I can think of that many examples of, like when you're miniature. Really?
No, it's grounded, Chibi Robo, Micro Machines.
Chibi Robo, wow.
Is that all of them? That's pretty much all the ones I can think of. But yeah, it's a really cool, like, you get these creatures, the Tinykin, and they have like different abilities. So you'll have ones that carry objects around for you, which is usually important to sort of like solve objectives and sort of do your main missions, if you will. There's sort of these explosive ones that blow up barriers or cages that have other Tinykin in. I think they definitely die when they do this, but we're supposed to think that's fine. There's green ones that you stack on top of each other to make a ladder.
Love the green ones.
The green ones are the best ones.
Green ones are the best ones.
Yeah. And you use their little abilities to explore every nook and cranny of the room, collect like usually about 1,000 of a collectible called nectar, but you get quite a lot of it at once sometimes, so it's not as overwhelming as it sounds. It's really lovely. Like I just don't think you can really understate how pleasant it is to just be in this world and wander around exploring and check every little crevice. Oh, you also skate on a piece of soap, and that's really good. That's a great way to get around. You have a little soap skateboard and you grind on silkworm threads to get everywhere.
We were talking about like platform games and stuff in our Discord, which you can find on Discord, but you can also, if you go to patreon.com/GodIsAGeek, that's patreon.com/GodIsAGeek, you'll find more information about our Discord and our private channels and stuff and all that, all the exclusive stuff you get, including this podcast early and extra stuff. Anyway, plug over. We were talking about platformers, and I do think we've reached a point now, and you mentioned this in your review, which again, godisageek.com for all your gaming news. Seriously, plug finished now. But we sort of hit a point now where I feel like for a very long time in both 2D and 3D platformers, people were looking at the kind of Nintendo model, but not quite taking the correct lessons away. Like they were going, oh, these look great, lovely and colourful. Like there's, whether you want to admit it or not all of, because you get your Bayonettas and there are other games that don't necessarily fit this mold, but there are a lot of games you can look at and go, that looks like a Nintendo game. Because of the colour, because of the vibrancy, it pops off the screen at you. And I think a long time people were taking that as the lesson for why Nintendo platformers were good. Whereas now, I feel like, and it's taken a bloody long time, it feels like more consistently people are getting the fact that, oh, they feel good. They really feel good when you're moving around in these worlds.
Yeah, exactly that. There's two things that I think, like because I just found myself with this game, like, just... holy crap, I've been playing for a couple of hours and I've just kept playing. For me, there's two key things. One is that, like, and you think about this with Nintendo platformers as well, there's lots of little things to see and do. Like when you were first describing it, when we were talking about it from the preview that you did, Lyle, I was like, sounds like these like rooms are going to be like really empty, because if I think about rooms in my house, there's going to be a massive expanse of carpet in the middle or whatever, and that's going to be quite dull to explore. Actually, it's very clever the way that there's lots of things in these rooms. So I always found with
it's
the
Mario
game,
Odyssey like, don't you think?
Yeah, no, exactly that.
And I hate to always use that as a comparison, but it's like the way the world's levels are progressive.
Yeah, I always find that I'm like I have a plan to go and look over here. And then before I know it, something's caught my eye, and I've gone over there. And normally, I'm the methodical. I will get.
I tried. I don't think you can do that in this game. Well, maybe.
So I did a couple of times, but the point is, the way I approach it is like, right, I'll explore over this corner and make sure I've looked at every bit of it, so I know there's no net to hide.
Yeah, but don't you find that corner becomes smaller than you would in other games? Because I tried to do that, but then I ended up in a fridge or something, and it's like, but now I'm here, I want to see what's here, and then there's just a little bit of nectar that you see growing up the trees.
Before I know it, I'm on the other side of the map. Yeah. I'm like, damn it, I didn't finish what I was doing.
No, I've got to go back there. Yeah.
But none of it was like, I was never annoyed.
Oh, God, no.
The reason why I was over the other side was because I was exploring and being interested. And then the other point which you started to make, the other reason why is just because it's so fun and interesting to get around.
Like the way you hit the what those silk lines?
The silk
lines. The way you hit them,
so...
you can just kind of launch into the air and hold down the button, and it just has that just the correct amount of kind of attraction to it. Yes. You don't have to, because it's a tiny thin line.
I tell you what, a little bit of a tangent. The amount of times in Xenoblade where I've fallen off those plitting
wires are interesting,
because I've not hit them correctly. Whereas
so do you want me to give you the secret to that? Because I didn't realise it's about 50 hours. Are you jumping onto the platform?
No, but now I am, because that's the way to do it. If you
walk up them. The opposite for me. Every time I jumped up them, I'd miss them and fall off.
Yeah.
I didn't think you could walk up them, but anyway.
No, sorry, that's what I mean. Yeah, walk up the steps and it's automatically jumps for you.
Yeah.
Whereas I would do what I do in Tinykin, where it works, is just gung ho from the side and try and land it like Tony Hawk's, and it just and it, like I say, it's quite a generous like hitbox, so you almost always land it. But like, it's just so. You mention it as a plus point in the review, Lyle, and it's bang on. Every game should have an equivalent of a soap skateboard, because being able to get around quicker or having interesting, fast ways of getting around large places it just makes it a little bit more fun, especially when you're exploring and finding collectible and stuff. You can whiz round and get around quicker.
It's the Spider-Man Manhattan swinging.
Yeah, it is. And then coupled with the green Tinykin climb and the zip wire things. It's just everything's just a little bit. It just feels really easy to get around, because you have this soap bubble thing as well, don't you? Which is the float thing, which you can power up as well. So like,
which is generous from the start, I thought.
Which is generous, and then when you get like 4, it's like, right, well now I can literally go anywhere.
You can just fly.
You're flying.
And again, the game. It does that thing. I think you guys mentioned it in Hellpire. I still haven't played that. Sorry, I will do.
No, if you like this, you'll like that. It's as simple as that.
It's designed in a way where there's a particular way to get up somewhere and get around somewhere, but you can also just launch yourself from another high place and you end up there anyway.
I'm not convinced I ever climbed. You know what? In this game, you've got like pot plants because you're in a house and there's leaves off them. I'm not convinced I ever went up them the way they was intended. I almost always would see them sort of in the distance in the nectar and go, oh, hang on. And then I just go up on the greens and just jump across and float around. And then, like it's such a, and it's so Moorish.
Yeah, it's
such a Moorish. Like, I know it's not that long.
I remember messaging you when I first started playing it. And I was like, I normally like, Adam will know, I could normally like play FIFA most nights with my friends. We start like 10:30 and we finish about midnight. I found myself up really quite late in the night, in the morning, just playing this because I was like, I'll just play for a little bit. And then all of a sudden I'm like, it's 1:30 in the morning. I need to go to bed. But like, it really hits that sweet spot of being enjoyable to play. It doesn't get repetitive, despite what you're saying about the limited Tinykin, the 1,000 nectar and all that sort of stuff, because the world's so interesting and you're moving at such a pace. It's just really good. It's really nice.
My only issue with it, and it's a bit of a minor one. Have you finished it yet, Chris?
No.
Okay, Lyle, I know you have, obviously. The only thing I would say is, when I say the last level, I don't mean the very last level. The last kind of, let's say the last map, the last room. I felt, because they do sort of get slightly bigger each time.
They do.
The last one I felt was just a teensy bit too much. In that I think that might be the first one where rather than sit there and play for an hour and a half, I think I did actually do that in 2 sittings. It was just that like touch, and it's not real. It's not like I mean, so what, right? You know what I mean? Who cares? And here, by the way, here's a really good part for you, everybody listening or watching. It's in Game Pass. So you don't even have to pay for this if you've got Xbox Game Pass. It's just, I mean, if you're watching this video podcast or if you're listening, you won't have seen perhaps, but go watch this video, go watch trailers, go watch our video review. The art style's just lovely. At first, I was actually a bit concerned because it's the character of like Milo is almost 2D stamped onto the world.
But I like that because it.
Yeah, no, it works. It works.
You think it's going to be weird, and then all of a sudden it just works every single time.
Yeah, it really does.
It's almost Paper Mario in its.
Well, I was worried about it was lazy. I worried, is this a bit lazy? But when you actually watch the game back or study it, there are plenty of animations for Milo when you
yeah.
look at him, he's sort of shuffling around and moving. It's not like you've stamped him on. It's a design decision. It's an aesthetic choice. So it's like, I think it looks great. I like the characters. I like the writing. It's very little. I'm trying to think what you listed as your flaws now. Because what did you give it 9 or 9.5? I can't remember. But
I gave it 9.
I remember you saying about the later. I'm going to call them Pikmin then. The later Tinykin.
That's a fair comment. Yeah,
I think which is. I mean, I haven't got the last one, which is the bridge one. I think, but like the
bridge one, I didn't mind, but it felt limited use. The electric one, I was not that keen on.
The thing is, though, this is always the case. This is true of another game I'm going to talk about in a minute. But like, when you have like upgrades or power ups or whatever, like Tinykin or whatever, and they're to do with like fluid of movement type things, getting about, and or like really awesome combat, but there's no combat in this game, so it's kind of irrelevant. But when you get those types of power-ups and you feel like a badass, or it's really easy to move about, they're really interesting. Whereas when it's like it's like a thing just to solve a particular problem, it's just okay, but it's less engaging, right? Whereas you will all, like you said, we all said that green one's really useful because it gets me to places really quickly. The green one's great.
Sorry,
so
the
like,
green one.
That's why we all like that one, and it's no surprise. Whereas, probably less like the blue
when you get loads of the green ones and but you don't, because I think the speed you're playing, you don't really. I know it comes up with the number on screen, but you don't really know how many you've got. And then when you just hold the button down and you just keep going, and you're like, oh my god, I've got a lot of these. Because again, by the end of the game, you've an army around you, like it is in it, Lyle. Like you, by the end of the game.
Oh, seriously.
Like unless I missed quite a bit, I felt like I had too many blues for the last sort of 2 levels. Like
I was the same.
It's
so
crazy.
I don't think we missed anything. But yeah, it's just very joyous. Like everything about it. Like even just the insects that you interact with, and like the things they've done, like the cathedral I mentioned. I really like on the kitchen level where there's just sort of like a grassy plain made out of scouring pads, and there's no real reason. It's just because it makes it look interesting, and it's just a bit more magical. And yeah, it's sort of the polar opposite to Hell Pie.
But there is a comparison to be made in terms of gameplay. I think those two are
they're very similar. They just have very opposite themes, and both are amazing. And we're eating good for platformers this year,
big time, right? Like seriously, I mean, yeah. And again, I think a lot of that is down to because with a game like a platformer, you'll see a trailer and you'll go, like, I don't like the look of that because of the art style. Because until you play it, really, you don't know if it's a good game or not. You can tell about the writing, or I don't like those jokes. Like with Hell Pie, you could watch it and go, bit South Park for me, or I don't like the aesthetic. But when you play it, you'd go, oh, but it feels really, really, really good. And that's what I meant when I said earlier. Like I feel like more developers now are making these games with that confidence of this feels good. And if you start from that point, everything else around it is that bonus, isn't it? Like when you think about, yes, of course, Tinykin, yes, of course, Hell Pie look good. And they're interesting to look at. But you start with that core mechanic of it feels great to control the character, and everything on top of that is the cherry on top, isn't it? It's like and that kind of links into another game we want to talk about, I think. And I feel like this conversation is going to be quite different to the one well, Chris, you and I have been playing Saints Row.
Yeah.
Oh.
No, look, I really like the Saints Row series. It came at a time when everyone was just like talking about GTA like it was the best thing ever, and Saints Row became this thing of like, the first one was kind of poor, the second one was almost like GTA, but what if we just took the piss out of ourselves all the time? And then everyone knows where they went after that with 3 and 4. Then they made Agents of Mayhem, which was apparently not anything to do with Saints Row, although it had links to Saints Row, and it was pretty rough. It just didn't hit the heights of Saints Row 3 or 4 or 2. And they vanished. That was it. That was Volition. They were gone after that for quite some time. They revealed Saints Row. I was at the event. They did another reveal of it where Lyle was at it. They would actually did a hands-on preview, which I couldn't attend. And now the game's out. And I don't like saying this, but this game's very disappointing to me. Like, it's not bad. No, like, it's not like straight up shit. It's not. It's not a shit video game.
Well,
no, it's not. It's not.
No,
it works.
Right,
it works. Okay. It is very buggy, but it does work. But like, I just
yeah. But I feel like, given what we've just been talking about, it works. It's
not enough for 2022.
It's a positive. So look, okay, surprising no one. I haven't played the Saints Row games before, but obviously I've heard like lots about them and know what they're supposed to be about. Fun and taking the piss, and you know that sort of stuff. Like you say, taking the piss out of GTA essentially, and they're just like the game doesn't know what fun is. That's what I keep coming back to.
But that's what pisses me off, because this developer definitely knows what fun is.
Yeah, and it just from the very, very first like opening prologue,
which I will say, by the way, that is bad. The opening mission is bad.
Like, I don't know how much shooting was prevalent in previous games, but it feels like they want to take it. They're taking this game down a route where it's very heavily on shooting. The shooting is pretty bad. It relies on auto aiming completely. So what you're finding is with the triggers, what you're doing is you're constantly re-aiming to find a new enemy because it will auto lock onto them pretty much.
It's Call of Duty auto lock aiming.
It is, but like
single player,
but also like an unresponsive Call of Duty. Like, yes, there's auto aim on some Call of Duty, but it's still easy to correct yourself and not have to rely on it. Whereas this one, if you want to have any chance of doing it, the most efficient way I found was to stop aiming and then re-aim because it will now lock onto a new person. And so you're just pressing in the trigger. After like 10 minutes, I was like, my fingers fucking hurt, and they shouldn't hurt when I'm playing a game. I know I'm old. I'm really old, but like my fingers shouldn't be hurting after a prologue of a game. And I just like its idea of being a cover shooter is to just press down to duck, hoping you're near some cover. Like I'm just like and then that opening section, like the best part, and then annoyingly, the best part of that opening section is the bits you're not controlling.
Now they have done that before. Like is it 3 or 4 where you're on you basically ride a rocket and Don't Want to Miss a Thing by Aerosmith plays. I can't remember. I think that's 4. I think I really can't remember which one it is. I remember previewing it, but I can't remember which game it is. But anyway, you weren't controlling that. So that isn't like the.
I don't mind when games do that sometimes, because sometimes it'd be like, this is actually a stupid thing to control. But I'm like, literally in the prologue, there was a couple of times I'm like, I'd have liked to have been controlling this. This would have been the interesting thing for me to do. Whereas
instead they then cut back to you doing another bit of shooting, and they've placed red barrels next to every one. And the thing is with this, by the way, and this to me is a very crucial thing, because in game design we all know what a red barrel means. You shoot it, it blows up. It's when you want to do crowd control. But in this, you don't have to aim at it and shoot it. It comes up on Xbox, press Y, and it just auto shoots for you. And that to me is a really killer key part of this, is that I suspect someone somewhere knows or knew the shooting wasn't great. Because the fact you can just hit Y should feel like, shortcut to fun. Kind of just like that. That would be the cool bit.
But it's almost where I found myself with it. It was like it was almost not like like you say, it should be the cool bit of fun. I found myself, I have to find the Y options, because the shooting's so unwieldy.
That's what I mean.
To give myself half a chance, I've got to find the barrels to press Y. I'm like, I shouldn't have to do that. I should be killing all these people and feeling like a badass for doing it, because surely that's what the game is about. It's about having fun. And no, it's not. It's about like really simple button commands to just do shit. And and that's the prologue. That's the prologue.
But I mean, if you're watching this video now, this is a perfect opportunity for me to jump in, because you're watching a mission here where you literally have to go and just walk around a party to join someone's gang, and they just send you from person to person, where you're told, go find this person in the snake mask, go find this person headbanging, and all you're doing is wandering around looking for that person with that animation, and then talking to them, and they send you to someone else. And it's like, how is this the game that used to let me have superhuman powers dressed as the president and jump across rooftops? How?
Don't talk to me about jumping across rooftops.
We'll get to that. But there's so many elements of this that feel confusing to me. Like, it's not bad, I will say that again, but it does feel ancient in some ways. Like, it doesn't look
old. It's really weird as well. It's one of those games that looks good and crap at the same time. And I can't, you'd have moments where you're like, oh, that looks quite nice. and then you carry on driving and go, holy Christ, that looks rough. And it's like it was just this weird mixture of like old and new
That's the movement as well. Like some things you can sort of mantle up by running into them, and you can't others. Like you can't get on top of a car in the same way you can climb up onto a little dumpster. It's like, oh, so you designed that bit for me to climb up, but that bit that's lower, it's kind of. Do you remember the Assassin's Creed thing where they would struggle to get up the curbs?
Yeah.
It's kind of that, but like 15 years later.
We found that example because, like,
yes, accidentally, I wasn't looking for it.
No, we found this example where, like, it's literally like you can climb up most buildings, to be fair, but like there was this like lower one, and we couldn't get up it. It was almost like it was an invisible wall on top of the roof bit, so we were like jumping, and it wasn't kind of grabbing onto the roof, and we were like, why can I get on that higher roof just next door, but I can't get on this roof? And I was getting really annoyed because I was like, well, that just seems stupid. But then we found a way on the other side of the building to get onto that very roof. So it wasn't like it was blocked off from the game where the game just didn't want you to be on that roof. It was just randomly, it hadn't, I don't know, coded in the ability to grapple onto that roof to pull yourself up. You have to go around another way and know that it doesn't look any different. It's not like in other games where they put like bright yellow things where you can grab onto like roofs and stuff, so you know where you can climb up. You just have to find the right one where there's not an invisible wall. And I'm just like, what? That is like 1995 shit. What is it? And like you say, Adam, it's
a lot of that is then there, like splash screens that don't need to be there.
Yeah.
That nobody was. You know, you bring up a mobile phone and blah 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 apps and that's fine. That's totally a thing you can do in a game. But like, don't program it in so that every time I click the app on the phone, I see a splash screen for that app when I'm going to be visiting that app a lot. Like, how does nobody go? Just pull that out. Just don't have that in. Just don't have that in because it's really anti-fun. Like it blows my mind in a bad way that like I really like Volition, and I've always thought they were creative and fun, and I wonder if they've kind of found themselves out of time almost, and a bit sort of stuck between stations, you know, between a rock and a hard place, whatever. All the you know, because I just don't know what this game is.
You'd be better to answer this question or say whether I'm speaking out of turn, Adam, because you've played the game historically. But it really felt like to me, it seems like they're so focused on being faithful to what the game used to be in whenever year it first came out, that they're prepared to accept warts and all for what existed back then, ignoring that like games and how we interact with them have moved on in that time. I don't know if that's completely it, but it certainly did feel like that would at least partly explain why it felt a bit stuck in the past.
No, that's fair. To me, it feels like they tried to remake Saints Row, starting with Saints Row 2. Right? Now, I like Saints Row 2, but I don't know why you would want to start there when you've got 3 and 4. Like I think everyone who played or reviewed or covered or touched Saints Row 4 at the time knew that they had hit the pinnacle. There was like, where do you really go from here? Because essentially, it had become Crackdown at that point, right? And I think you know that if you do make a Saints Row 5, there's nowhere to go. There's no road left to go on. And I think that's why they went away and they tried to make Agents of Mayhem, which wasn't a Saints Row game, but like had links, and it was like really poorly received. And it's almost like they've gone, fine, we'll make a Saints Row game then, just like that one. It's like, no, but you had 3 and 4, which were like amazingly fun. Like, Lyle, did you touch any of the Saints games? I should say Saints Row.
Yeah, I've played 2, 3, and some of 4.
Okay, so you know what I'm
pretty
saying.
Pretty much most of the series, yeah.
Yeah,
yeah, totally. And like,
it's weird.
It was one of the things when I got to attend the hands-off preview, like I was like, I was sort of like, okay, it's going to be sort of the first thing I'll get to see of this Saints Row game, and they were quite fun, so I'll see what's going on.
Yeah.
And like, obviously, like I couldn't tell how it played, so it was hard to say how is this going to be. But there were kind of like moments that they were showing off as like, this is something you should be, excited about for this game, where it was like, this is like a mission where you're in a car and that someone else is driving and you're shooting enemies while they drive. And I was like, I've not done that in a game for about 15 years. And I hated it when I did then. Like, it was just the sort of stuff where I was like there were just these inklings where it was sort of like, this looks like some of these things look a bit dated, and I'm kind of worried. I hope it at least plays well and there's some fun things in there. But from what I've heard, it doesn't sound...
There is There is, but it's not surfaced as much as you like. I don't know if you ever played any of these in the game, Chris, but like there's these missions where you have to park up, attach a grapple to something, and drag it to a location. They're fucking awful. They're like and then it's not like there's one of them. There's a kind of at least two early on you can do, and I just wonder who played them at the. It feels like it wasn't play tested by an external source. Like it feels like it was play tested by people who were too in love with the game, if that makes sense. Because also it is worth saying, I suspect a lot of patches will come, but at the time I played it, it was buggy as it was one of the more buggy games, and I just don't understand it. Like I don't understand. Not why this exists, because I know the studio has passion behind they wanted this, but there's so much incongruous nonsense. Like Mick mentioned this in the review, and it's a cracking point, right? This game's like become the boss, self-made, blah blah blah, and the story starts off in your skin. None of you have got any money. For some reason, you're the only fucker who goes and gets a job. Everyone else just sort of does their thing, but they're all in gangs. Great, cool. Cheers for paying the rent. You go and get a job, and you go, oh, I've got no money. We've got no money. But within about an hour or two, you've got thousands and thousands of dollars because you're killing people picking up cash. And it's like in the era where Saints was a thing, like 2, 3, and 4 were bigger, that kind of, well, it's cognitive dissonance, isn't it? I hate to bring that fucking phrase up. But like that thing was more acceptable because games weren't perhaps as far along or as advanced as they are now. You know, we were quite happy to accept the lack of meshing of mechanics as such. But now, when your character is whinging about being skint and you're having to do all this, that, and the other, meanwhile you're spending $1,500 on a cap, it doesn't make sense, and it's not a difficult problem to solve. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not it's a thing people have done now, and my biggest worry for it is I just wonder. This is a game that I remember 3 or 4. I can't remember the third or fourth game, where literally like one of the press. It was so wacky and crazy and out there that they sent out dildo bats as part of the press pack. They were big old dildo bats. I just worry it's trying to fit into a culture that it not so much doesn't belong, but like it's okay. That kind of comedy still exists. Like South Park's still going. You know what I mean? You're not going to get cancelled for poking fun at nobody and just being stupid and silly. And I worry that that's affected the game. And for me, I just found myself, again, not a bad video game. There are parts of it that mechanically are fine. I found myself just going, don't want to play this.
No,
I'm bored. This isn't doing it for me at all. And that because I was such a fan of the previous games, the biggest takeaway I had from it is, you made Saints Row 3 and 4. Why isn't this game more fun? And that kills me. And I hope no one from Volition ever hears this, because it's really sad. It sucks for me. Like I really like them, and they, I don't know if you got to speak to any of them at the preview, Lyle. They really believe in their game and they're passionate, and I think lots of developers are. But I just don't understand. And that's
that really is a lot.
Yeah,
it is. Own shift from the last game.
Let's shift again then. Chris, shift us back.
Islets. I'm presuming that is how you spell it. How you pronounce it.
It'd have to be.
Must be. I don't know if anyone's going Islets or something.
No, it have to be Islets.
So Islets. Mick reviewed this for God is Geek. It's a Metroidvania title. Just made by one person, which is actually incredible when we start getting into it. One guy did the...
Sorry, just before anyone comments, yes, the game has another name on it. It's his brother who did the music.
Yeah, I was about to say that, yes. So
okay,
there's one guy did the music, his brother, and one guy did the game.
The rest of it.
And you are a little mouse called Ico, I want to say. And you're in this land that has been where the world's been separated into 5 islets, and your task is to bring these islets back together, and that will bring prosperity to the land. And it, the story is what it is, but let's park that there. But like I said, it's 2D Metroidvania game. it's. I will say straight off the bat, it's a very, very tight, responsive like controls. Like the controls are really tight, really responsive. But basic. You've got two forms of combat. You've got a kind of melee attack for close range, and then you've got a bow and arrow, which you can guide, but also sort of locks on a distance as well to enemies as well. And you've got a set amount of them, and you do melee damage to enemies, and it refills your arrows. So you can kind of use both depending on the situation, but obviously your arrows are limited, so you've got to kind of get stuck in at certain points. And it's kind of you go through these different rooms like you would in any Metroidvania, and it's kind of I'd say there is rooms with enemies in that you've got to clear. You don't have to clear, but you won't die if you do that. But I'd say it leans a lot more into there's a lot of rooms that are kind of puzzle orientated as well than say a Metroid game would be, where like there's kind of either different you've got to get across dodge different obstacles and things, or you've got to kind of solve a couple of puzzles to get to the next thing. So there feels like there's more like puzzle type rooms to kind of overcome. And they're not challenging, but it wasn't just every room was filled with enemies and get through it. Where this game does a couple of different things, and where it kind of stands out for me though is in the. I do need to spoil a little bit to kind of talk about it.
Yeah, I don't know how you can without.
So I'm just going to say it, right? Okay, and
so if you really do want to buy and play this game, and you don't want to know what are the really cool things it does, just skip like 30 seconds, 60 seconds, whatever. But it's kind of a selling point for me. This is cool.
It is for me as well. Like, it's basically there's 5 different islets, and like I said, the idea is that you bring them together because they've each got this like magnetic core that once you activate it, once you've activated 2 of those cores, it brings 2 islets together, and essentially it creates one bigger island. And then what that means is for the map sections, they attach at certain points of the map. So you might get 2 islets that then do that, and now they've got a central connection point. So now different areas on the map are now connected. So where they would be separate and you got to the edge of one map, they wouldn't go anywhere. Now it connects to another map that you might have previously explored, and it opens up new areas. And I've not really seen a Metroidvania do that in terms of level design. The map's kind of the map. You just explore it, and it's quite obviously one map. Whereas this is kind of like you'll explore a map fully, and then you'll bring another one in, and that's one way of it opening up new areas to explore. There is still the normal Metroidvania thing of I've now got a new ability which unlocks ways to explore the map. That's still there as well, but it's just another extra way of kind of adding it in, and it's done. I have to say, it's done really cleverly because it's quite seamless, isn't it? It's not forced. And
at first you're like, oh, that's the edge of the map. That's a shame because it does just sort of like it almost blocks you off. There's just like I think in fact they do tell you narratively like, oh yeah, this is what they do say something like this is where it once connected, but now it's just this massive expanse. You'll fall off if you go too far, and you're like, oh yeah, I get it. And then when you do pull them together, you're like, it's a real clever. I mean, it's also got like shmup stuff in it, like some of the bosses outside of the. There's like a hub world you can go to where you can buy stuff and upgrades, and there's like a mailbox where there's puzzles based there. But there's also like the way to access other levels is you fly around in a little ship which you can upgrade, and there's like full on shoot 'em up levels there that are like bullet hell stuff. And it's like, okay, I've not seen that too often. Do you know the game it most reminded me of, and I'm surprised you haven't mentioned this, in terms of the genre at least, it kind of reminds me of a obviously lot smaller budget version of kind of the Ori series.
Yeah.
In terms of the way the enemies work.
I was like, it's like, so I thought of Ori and like Hollow Knight in terms of like the way it controls. I think, I mean, I've certainly not seen that much. I remember because you played it a bit before me and you're like, I'd be really interested to know what you think about it. And I was like, I know what's happening because it kind of tells you about like the cause and stuff. And the whole premise when you start it, you've got to bring stuff together. But then when it does it and it kind of shows you on the map where they connect, it's like, oh, okay, now I get it now, and
that also has a payoff. Again, I will stop short of spoiling there, but that connection thing has a payoff for the kind of last level, like in how that's it teaches you via new abilities, via new exploration. Indie games are killing it.
Yeah, what I will say is, it's like, to be really clear, like, it's not just now like 2 islets are connected, like it's just shortcuts between levels. It's literally opens up different areas in clever ways. It's very clever level design the way it does it, and even to the last one where you're like, how by adding the last one in, are you going to do it? And you can see, it's opened up those 2 last bits which I couldn't access before, and I get it. And it's even to the last point where you kind of box in. There's only one way more you can add them in. They still find a way to link it in. I found, I always say a testament to a good level design with Metroidvanias is that, yes, you might be backtracking, but you always know where you've got to go. And I think Metroid Dread was a very good example of that. Like, it was literally like, okay, now I know exactly where you want me to go, because you've really considered what I've just achieved and what new power up I've got, and now I know where I need to go with it. And Islets is like that. Like, I always knew, okay, I now know where you want me to go. Now I've got this ability, or those 2 islets have come together. So it's just it looks lovely as well. Like, it's got a lovely art style. Yeah, the music's really good to the guy that did the music. But the music, that's really lovely as well.
Boss fights are great. I found that almost every boss fight was enjoyable to me.
Yeah. There's enough uniqueness. Like I say, a lot of it's like that. I always think every 2D, whether it's a Metroidvania or Souls, like, if you've got a dodge roll button, you're in good hands. And this and this is utilized really well, because you have to dodge for like the boss fights, and it helps you with the other enemies as well.
It could be harder.
It could be harder, because the good thing is with the dodge roll is it's like an invincibility roll, essentially. So you kind of go, well, I can just dodge out of that. And I think sometimes there are a couple of puzzles where I think the game forgets you've got a dodge roll.
Yeah.
It would like, here's this laser that goes around the room, and like, you want me to follow the laser around the room?
Yeah, I'm just going to dodge through each one of the lasers individually because I can.
Because I look at it and go, I know what you want me to do. You want me to go all that hardware.
There are also kind of a few mechanics they introduce which could be used more. Like I could just say the developer introduces. Yeah. Like, it's not really a spoiler, but there's like almost a Portal style thing in some sections, and like one of them is like, it was really like, that's really clever to take that idea and turn it 2D. But it's kind of underused.
Yeah, I think, no, absolutely. There are things what I think are cleverly used, and that's quite underused. I think the first new arrow type that you get is very underused.
The arrows come quite late.
Off an area, which I think is a shame. And but what I will say is the second arrow you get, I thought was really well used. I hadn't really seen that in a game before.
That's clever as well.
That's used quite a lot. But yeah, you're right. The whole Portal thing, you came across that area, and I was like, you've seen it in games before. It's not like it's a new thing.
No,
but it's like, okay, how's this going to get used? And it gets used for a couple of things, and then after that, it sort of drops off, which is a shame.
I would also add that I don't know if Mick did this. I know you did. The default control scheme is a bit like Cuphead, and like you play it, and you're like, this doesn't feel right. Obviously, you can change it, but like instantly, as soon as I changed them around, it's like, that's much better.
As soon as anyone gives me a dodge roll that's not mapped to B on the Xbox controller, I'm like, that's changing, because like
it's B for me, but like, it was on the bumper, wasn't it? If I remember, no.
I kind of remember, because as soon as it said it's here, I'm like, no, it isn't. It's going there, because every other game the dodge roll's there. So if I've got, especially in, like you say, like the bullet hell or the wheel, you've got to know instinctively where the dodge roll is. So I just changed it. So, but yeah, it's such a great game. It's one of those ones I couldn't stop playing as well. Like, just wanted to get a bit further.
I think it was done within 3 days for me. I think.
Yeah, it was. I really enjoyed it.
7-8 hours, I think I would say.
I 100%ed it in 7 hours.
I was going to go back and do it. I didn't have a lot left to do, and I think go on.
Nice little thing when you get 100% of the things, I will say, and a nice little end game thing.
Okay, I might.
There's nice end game content. It's not revolutionary, so I won't spoil it, but there is some end game content if you get 100% of the collectibles.
What put me off is that normally I would go, right, I'm going to get all the achievements, but because I was on Steam, I saw there were a couple for like completing boss rush modes, and I was like,
I'm end game content I wasn't going to reveal, but yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, there's literally trophy achievements for that, so it's like I didn't. I've not unlocked that, so I assumed it would unlock it. And there's like complete. Is it hard mode or extra hard mode? There's just some weird achievements.
Complete without dying? I was like, probably won't do that.
Won't bother with that, and that put me then off going back and getting everything.
Can't sit here and go, it's too easy, and then go, but there's an achievement for completing boss rush on hard mode.
Yeah, okay.
Then go, I can't do that because it's too hard. But like, honestly, this game is it's a bit like Tinykin in one sense. It controls really well. The traversal's really engaging. It looks lovely.
Doesn't
it feels
outstay
good
its
to
welcome.
play, and you lose yourself in it. Like it's very much. It gave me the same emotions as Tinykin did. Like it's really good. Loved it. Just get on it if you can. It's a really good game.
It's PC only at the moment, but if it doesn't come to Switch, then I'll be very, very surprised.
It is perfect for Switch.
Yeah, it's because I played the whole thing on Steam Deck, and like it feels so at home. Another game that I guess fits that kind of scheme of feels great, looks great is I don't know how much we'll talk about this, but basically I went to play some Splatoon 3, and shock horror, I really like Splatoon 3. The thing is I went to the preview kind of expecting to get to play some of the stuff they showed at the Direct that was newer.
Yeah.
And really what I played some single player, multiplayer, some horde mode, which is their co-op, I guess. So I came away not with like the most amount to say about it, because the single player is kind of the single player. You are it's level based. It's similar to the second game, and it's similar to the Octo expansion DLC. The multiplayer was Turf War. That's what the mode that was already available, if that makes sense. In terms of like the original games, and the maps didn't. The maps we played didn't. Only got 2 or 3 matches. The maps we played didn't feel like super different to anything the previous games had put in. So it was more about using the new weapons, which I really, really enjoyed. And then like Salmon Run as well, of course, is, I don't want to say back, but like just really, really entertaining. And like the biggest takeaway from this, and I'll say this every time I talk about Splatoon 3, and every time I'm doing anything on it, is that it is available at all times. There's no timed content. You can't play this because Nintendo decided that they don't want it being played at this time. It's just a mode in a game you can play, and I know that's what it's supposed to be. And every other
Knockout
multiplayer
City
game
would do that.
Do they not? Do they not do it?
No, Knockout City still does the.
They
you
still
want to play
rotate.
4-player? Well, I think you'll have to wait for the second week of the month to do that.
Now, in fairness to them, I think the reason they do that is the reason Splatoon 2 did this as well. And I think at the time, they weren't sure the audience for the game was big enough that if they had too many options, you will segregate the user base. And that's when you find yourself like in the old days where you couldn't get a game because everyone was playing the other modes. I think, being Nintendo, I don't think that's a problem, and I think now that I think it sold over 10 million copies. Like, people are playing Splatoon.
Yeah.
Like, you can toss the eggs now from distance if you've got ink, rather than having to go to the basket every time. And it was a nice appetizer, if that makes sense. Like, I am really ready to play this game now. I am really hoping that this game gets that audience, because from what I've played, the impression I get is they got it. They finally understood it. They listened to what people didn't like, and they have fine-tuned. Now, it might sound like almost a Nintendo apologist thing to say, but they fine-tuned it in the way like almost Gears 2 to Gears 3. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's not wholesale changes. There's new modes and stuff which we haven't yet to see, but they've fine-tuned the mechanics to be like, finally. Do you know what I mean? And that's probably enough for me. Like, I don't need a revolution. I need Splatoon 3 to fix anything that was wrong with 2, add new maps, add the new modes, which again, haven't played them, can't talk about them because I haven't played them. A bigger single player, which it looks like it could be. There's some stuff I can't talk about that I did get to see, which is a horrible prick tease. I'm sorry for that. But there are some things to do with the single player that I'm like, okay, there's something here that reminds me of something else, and that could be really interesting. I can talk about Small Fry, which is like the replacement for the grenade that you can throw into the distance to get things you otherwise wouldn't reach, and it opens up paths and stuff in levels. So there's the thought.
I don't know if it intended this, but when I read the preview, I was just like, that sounds very much like Cappy from Mario Odyssey, and I wonder
kinda, and that's what I'm wondering. That's what my thought is. How far will, because I only got to play like the first, I think it was the first 3 levels actually, and it's like obviously there's gonna be a lot more than 3 levels. How far will they take that idea? Because there's potential here that right now I'm just throwing it at a thing that's making another thing unlock, and I can now get to that thing. how far can they take that idea?
Yeah.
There's an upgrade system for the single player that again I can't really go into, but I was like, I'm looking forward to delving into. Really very, very excited for Splatoon 3, and yeah, read the preview, watch the video, which is kind of similar to what I've just said. It's time for listener correspondence, and Chris White, I have an apology to make.
Oh, is the apology because you called me Chris White?
Did I call you Chris White?
Yeah.
I was looking at, sorry, mate. I was looking at the screen down here where I've got all your name, all the people who are on the podcast listed, and for some reason I was hovering over his name. I'm always thinking of Chris. I missed him this week. We all miss you, Chris.
Yeah, we all do miss him.
Chris Hyde. Sorry, I have two apologies to make to you, Chris Hyde. Firstly, for calling you Chris White. Fucking hell. Cocodamol. Also, other brands are available. And I've done you dirty with that listener correspondence theme.
Have you redone it?
Well, someone's done something.
I see.
Someone's done
something.
Someone's done something.
Oh.
So
maybe it was me.
We'll never know. Maybe episode 500 there'll be some sort of grand reveal. I can't reveal now because it wouldn't be happening. But it is time for listener correspondence, which means we've got a jingle to play. Here's the new jingle.
It's time. It's time. Listen, correspond. Listen. It's time. Listen, correspondent.
All right.
Right now, what you have to understand is my phone. I'm watching this on my phone, and
Yes.
it's got about a second delay.
Yes.
And it's also on silent.
Oh.
So all I can see is the images of the woman gyrating.
I'll tell you what I'll do. Right. I will mute your mic, and so you can unmute your phone, and I will play that damn jingle again. It's that good. So I'm going to mute your mic right now. Okay.
Yeah.
So for those watching the video, we're going to get a second bite of the cherry. Here comes the listener correspondence jingle.
It's time. It's time. Listen, correspond. Listen. It's time. Listen, correspondent.
Was it so? The question is, was it better or worse with audio?
I'm crying. Right.
Why do you go with such a thing? I don't know.
My god. Is that Steve that's done that?
Well, I listen. There's a lot of people saying
Because that's
things.
been about 4 months in the waiting, but it's worth it if it is. But anyway, if it's not, then fuck you, Steve. But like, that is brilliant. I love that. I love the gyrating woman, the dancing man, the fact that my head goes big.
Well, he didn't do that. That was me. I did the video part of it, to be fair. Hey, listen.
Oh, well, it's fantastic teamwork. Who knows where this is going next? It just keeps iterating.
Sorry. No, well, I know where it's going next.
Oh, great. Okay. Yeah. Right.
Kieran says in the super chat, by the way, a true cinematic masterpiece.
I completely agree, mate. Yeah. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. But it is time.
It's time. You actually do this. Throwing it for half an hour. Right. First set of questions comes from Cowabunga. Thank God, changed his name from last week. It's Mick.
Can I just? Sorry, I just want to say editorially, I whipped out. There's a question for each of us which we can't answer. It was the same question, and I've removed it. And it was regarding our favourite games of the year so far. We can't answer that editorially. As God is a Geek Boss, I had to just remove that.
Yeah, because we want people to listen to our Game of the Year pods, which are the highlight of the year when we all get angry at each other for disagreeing. But anyway, so questions we can answer. Adam.
Yep.
Should Kirby's Dream Buffet be free? Feels super free to play, like you said in your review. Also, don't see much value in it since there's a good Kirby game on Switch finally, and proper Fall Guys on Switch now.
It's weird, right? I don't know how much you do know about this game.
Only read what you've put in. That's it.
I mean, should it be free to play is a strange question. It's not up to me to decide what should and shouldn't be free.
Nintendo, so it's never going to be.
Well, they've done free to play. Well, they've done stuff that you get free if you're a Nintendo Online member.
I was going to say, I would have thought this could have been one of those.
It could have been one of those. It could have been a mode in like a it could have been a bit of DLC for, you know.
Because you could easily see this as like a Tetris 99 or whatever.
100%.
Yeah. Anyway, carry on, sorry.
No, you're correct. the price is why I can't just go definitely play it, because it is a lot of fun and it is very Fall Guys. It's a bit Katamari Damacy. It's a bit of a lot of things. I have some slight concerns over the balance of it. It doesn't feel free to play, and like the old style free to play where you're like, oh, this is rubbish. And Kieran in chat said they did a free to play Kirby game before, didn't they? They did. I believe it was a side-scrolling one, so I can't speak to that because I don't think I played that. But there was definitely a free-to-play Kirby game on Switch. It's just a really strange one, because the only thing I would say is Fall Guys wasn't free to begin with. Like it went free to play. It was people think it was because it was PlayStation Plus. That game was a not full price, but that was a purchasable video game on Steam. I bought it on Steam actually. That was good planning, wasn't it?
No wonder you hate it so much. You paid for it.
But and that's the thing as well, is that like playing this now, with the similarities to Fall Guys in my head, I'm like, well, you know, where Fall Guys started and where Fall Guys is now, if Nintendo support this, which they might, I mean, there's no reason they should or shouldn't, but like, should it be free to play? I would be comfortable saying I think it should be one of those games you get if you're a Nintendo Switch Online subscriber, or even an expansion plus max super trouser mode. That, and you know, a tenner. It's odd. I just think back to games like on the, what were they called? Damn it, there were these not Picross. There was games where they made a first on like 3DS, and they made a Wii U version, and you were little characters and you had to make puzzles and these really cool downloadable only games that were this sort of price, and you're like, oh, that's a really cool game, more people should play this. And this doesn't feel quite in that tier. You know, these were games were getting 8s and 9s, they were so good. But should it be free? It's not really for me to say. What's next? Hit me.
Right, I was wondering if we could both answer these questions together, because we've both been asked them, and I feel like otherwise it would be like us going back and forth.
Okay.
So which game do you like more than Breath of the Wild? He's asked both of us.
Do you want me to just be honest? Like, are we doing this? Are we actually doing this?
I mean, I know what one of your games is, and I agree with it.
Do. You know what both of mine are? There's two games I can pull that I definitely prefer.
I can pull 3 just without even thinking.
Well, I'll give you my 2. Super Mario World.
I could pull a few if you wanted.
Or Super Mario World and Final Fantasy 7, I presume, are your 2.
Yeah, and I don't mean that Final Fantasy 7 probably stands against it now, but at the time that game was my favourite game of all time aside Mario World, and it was like Mario World to me is like revolutionary in terms of in my gaming experience. It's like I could play that game now and enjoy it.
Holds up now.
I reckon in 20 years I could play it. I'd still enjoy it. You know what I mean? There's a reason. I know it feels slightly different, but Mario Maker, there's a reason that's so successful. There's a reason why that. There's a reason why so many people make levels in Mario World.
Yeah.
But 100%. Those two, definitely.
So Mario World, I mean, I did a list. It's on godasgeek.com of the top 5 best Zelda games, and Breath of the Wild came in at number 3. So there's definitely two games, even in the Zelda franchise, that I think are better than Breath of the Wild. So I'll give you Ocarina of Time and Link to the Past as well as games that I think about.
Link to the Past, I might agree on.
I thought we agreed on Link to the Past, and then you went.
I don't know about Ocarina. I don't think Ocarina's aged as well as people say it has.
I'm sure it hasn't, but I'd argue the same revolutionary conversation.
So when you said 3 you could pull, was that including 2 Zeldas? Like
2 Zeldas and a Mario?
Because I would have guessed, if I was to guess, I would have thought you'd have gone Metroid Prime.
I think Metroid Prime's a better game as well. Yeah.
It's close, isn't it?
But that for me, that's like, that's closer. Like the other 2, I'm like, it's there. But like for me, Metroid Prime's brilliant.
Well, I don't know if I could say that. That's a close one.
That's a close one.
But there's games I prefer. Yeah,
it's a lot of great games there.
Yeah, there are. They were ones that would be less aggressive conversations on a certain podcast.
Yeah.
But anyway, least favorite exclusives on all 3 platforms right now. I struggled with this.
So
I did a bit of research for this.
I'd have to.
Have you got some, Lyle?
Well, the first thing that came to mind, the only one that I could think of that came to my mind, I'd be like, I don't really like Flight Simulator. So I was like,
that's a great shout.
I was like, I just don't really like it. Like, it's just not for me. Like, so I was like, right, well, that one, put that in the bag. And then I was trying to think of the other 2, and I was like, I can't think. I need people to throw games at me, and I'm like, yeah, that's shit. But I can't think.
So we're talking PlayStation 5, Xbox Series SX, and Switch.
Switch, yeah. And I was just like, trying to think of a Switch exclusive that I think's bad, and I just couldn't think of any. I was working at the same time, so I apologise. But
if Lyle's got some, I say we let him go and just nick his answers.
Go for it, mate. You can.
Okay. Well, I for the Xbox part, I sort of went, well, all Xbox's whole big thing is how much the backwards compatibility works.
I know where
so I was just going to
go in.
So I was just going to go. You don't know where this is going. I didn't. I might not have thought of the thing that I should have done that you're thinking of. But I just thought I was scrolling through Game Pass and I saw that Connect Disneyland Adventures, and I thought, yeah, that's a bit rubbish.
That's quite good though, isn't it? I remember that being good.
I thought it was. You just wander around Disneyland and play bad mini games.
Mick's just put in the chat Pokemon games easy. Come on, I knew that he'd asked it for us to say a Pokemon game. I knew that's why he'd asked it.
Of course he did.
Yeah,
but no one will.
This could be annoying thing for me because I actually liked Arceus, so like I'm struggling with the Pokemon game thing.
I'm struggling with all of these.
Yeah.
So PS5's harder because that does actually have a lot of exclusives. So I'm not just going to pick something backwards compatible. So I kind of just thought like Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. Is that what it's called? I just thought it was a bit average.
I mean, it says least favorite rather than thinks it's shit.
Yeah, totally. Like, I'm not saying I wouldn't give it a terrible score. Like, it would be like,
Have you done Switch yet?
No,
I haven't. But I've got my Switch. But you go first.
No.
Oh my god,
that would be unfair. I just wonder if we're going to say the same thing.
We're not, because I'm saying Animal Crossing because I think Animal Crossing's rubbish.
I was going to say a game we both reviewed, which is currently still an exclusive.
That's
No More Heroes 3.
Oh yeah.
It's currently it counts right now. So I've got one. I come up with
it's going to be close.
There has to be an Xbox game. I mean, the trouble is there's not been many recently. I mean, that wasn't this gen. I was going to say the Forza, not Horizon. The main ones I find a bit stale.
Yeah, I also thought about them when I was trying to keep it this gen. But
Sea of Thieves.
What's that?
Nothing.
No, I didn't hear you. What?
Sea of Thieves.
A Sea of Thieves.
No, I mean, quite like it. I quite like that.
Just trying to bait. Love it.
I really am struggling to think for
this
Xbox.
one. Like I say, I was like, as soon as I got Microsoft Flight Simulator, I was like, I'm smashing this. Like this is easy. And I was like,
that's because it's their only exclusive.
I know, and I was like, well, I quite
literally the only console exclusive.
I was like, yeah,
but they're all on Xbox One. Flight Sim isn't.
Forza Horizon 5 or something like that.
Yeah, that's on Xbox One, isn't it?
I think it is.
How we're doing it? Oh, well, in which case I'll smash this answer then.
Yeah, no, that is the ultimate and possibly only answer.
Yeah, it's the only one you can pick.
I think you can move on. I think you've completed the game there.
All right, cool.
And it's not just because I want to hear that jingle one more time quicker.
No. Well, we've got some Lyle questions.
Yes, of course.
If you could pick between unlimited free shirts of the Lyle variety or unlimited free coffee for life, which would you pick?
Easily the shirts. I don't care that much about coffee.
Are you?
I mean, I have it sometimes, but like it's one of those things where like it's not going to break the bank when I have my one coffee a week for the rest of my life.
Hang about, Mr. Carr. Going to editorialise here again. What about this?
Okay.
Free shirts. You can have the free shirts.
I know what you're going to say.
You'd finish it for me, Chris.
Or unlimited free milkshakes.
Damn right. Damn right.
I'm still going with the shirts. I'm sticking with my original answer.
Yeah, I thought you were going to something else to answer then.
What?
No, I wouldn't not that.
What?
Absolute.
See what? Yeah, the main reason behind this is if I had unlimited free milkshakes, I'd die in like a year. It's a terrible idea. Like if you have free of one of the best foods.
But what a way!
I want to live. I want to live forever.
And you will in podcast form.
I will, but I'd also like to. I'd like there to be more podcasts with me in though, to truly annoy people for many a year. And I can't do that if I have unlimited ice creams. But if I'd have a different shirt every week and think how amazing they'd all be.
I suppose as well, if you had unlimited milkshakes, you wouldn't be able to fit in your shirts.
Exactly. I'd have to get I'd have to spend.
You'd have to pay
more money
to keep a shirt wardrobe going. So that's
all the money I saved on milkshakes. I'd have to spend on 7XL Hawaiian shirts, and it'd get ridiculous.
Like moo-moos from that Homer's episode.
But we'd be the most famous podcast anywhere.
Oh,
come and see the amazing Swollen
Lyle versus Milkshake.
Yeah,
he's got 2 milkshakes this episode.
Yeah,
and they're just for the first game.
Yeah.
Chris, I've got to ask you this one, haven't I?
Yes.
Do you scan Amiibo in Xenoblade 3 for the experience?
Do you know what? I was thinking about this actually the other day. I don't. I go past the menu all the time because obviously it's in the menu, isn't it? I've only got one Amiibo because I'm not you, right?
Oh, all right.
I've got about 87. I've only got Marth. I've got Marth. That's who I've got. And so I scan it. I've only really used him on Monster Hunter Rise to get free stuff. But no, I haven't actually done it for Xenoblade, so I might have to try it and see what it does. Again, it says it gives you free XP and stuff, so I might have to try that. Not that I need it because I'm amazing and overpowered, but I might try it. But no, I haven't. I don't even know if it tells you. Obviously, it's in the menu.
It does.
It probably does. It tutorializes everything.
No, I think it does. But it's so throwaway in amongst the other 3 billion.
Yeah, but no, I haven't. I don't need it though. I'm so good. Unless it would give me the items for the flipping Collectopedia or the gem upgrades, because that'd be really pissing handy. So I always need one more thing for all of those, and I never seem to know what they are.
So many Amiibo. Why didn't I do this? Well, I wouldn't have completed the game, would I? Because every day I'd just been sitting there again.
For the first half an hour getting Amiibo collectibles.
Easily. Yeah. We got any more questions?
We've got one more, yes.
Okay.
All of us. I have quite a lot of passionate thoughts about this one, so yes.
Okay.
So question from McPoo. Thoughts on the PS5 price hike?
Have you also seen that they've also announced the price hike for PlayStation Plus?
Yes.
So it's not just the
First
console.
time in 10 years.
Yes. The console and the service has gone up.
Yeah.
If you've got passionate thoughts, mate, I mean...
Right, I have passionate views on this.
Well, hang on a minute, I'll put you as a camera centre.
Do it. There's... first off, right? So if you want to know which camp I'm in, am I outraged or am I not? I'm really fucking not. I don't want to come across like posh, rich Chris. But
we should have known you were going to do this because I could have got some crowns or something to put on your head in the video ahead of time. No, I ain't got time right now.
Just play the bloody jingle like you did last week halfway through whilst I'm talking to interrupt me, which I didn't realise until I watched the podcast back. And I was like, I just watched it and he just interrupted me, the bastard. Anyway.
The sublink, fuck's sake, I saw this news in fucking Discord and it was a troll. They haven't put the PlayStation Plus price up.
Have they not?
No. And if you think I'm editing that out of the podcast, I'm far lazier than that. So that was yet more. I only saw it in the Discord because I'm at work all day. I've been busy today as well. He's done me twice in 2 days with his trolling links. I thought it fucking looked familiar. I really thought those price changes looked familiar as well. Just the console's gone up. Is that real? Is anything real anymore?
So right, consoles. So first,
I'd just be in pain. I'm not going to take painkillers. They make me fucking dopey.
Firstly, I work in a company and our costs have gone up, right? And the price increase is what, 6%, something like that. I can tell you now, our costs in my business has gone up by more than that. I bet Sony's have as well. So
this is his heel turn moment, by the way.
The fact that it's
it really is.
The fact that it's 6%, I'm like, okay, fair enough. But so they're not even passing on the full cost that they're probably feeling. Secondly, I'd question the Venn diagram of people that go, I'm prepared to pay £450 for a PlayStation 5, but £480 is completely out of my price range. There's going to be about 3 people in the world that fall into that category.
Can you do impressions at all?
No.
Not even like a Lord Melchit from Blackadder, because if you did what you just said in that...
No, you can, though. I'm not doing that.
No, I'm not. I wouldn't.
But, so the people that are outraged, but I don't get it. If you see saying you've got £450 saved up, but you can't stretch to £480. And then lastly, the other reason is it's 30 fucking quid. You know, we've got for context, people that aren't in the UK right now, we've got fucking electricity and gas prices going up hundreds of pounds a month every fucking 3 months at the moment. They're all going to skyrocket in October. Then in January, it's 30 fucking quid. Last spends that on milkshakes in a day. It's not. It's not the thing to be worrying about. It really isn't. So, right, 3 arguments. Sony costs are going up, and so they're just transferring it. 2, it doesn't affect a lot of people, and 3, there are bigger things to be worrying about in the fucking world that are going up more than that. So no,
you're telling me that there are more important things.
It's just what everyone's doing. Get over it. That's what I think about it. And if that's anti-God is a Geek line, I am so sorry, but that's how I think.
Hey, listen, your opinion's your opinion, but like, wow.
You rich bastard.
Yeah, I mean, I'm outraged on behalf of everyone, obviously, because...
yeah, me too.
I just feel like this is one of those faux outrage things. Like,
you mean like everything in the world?
Yeah, I just feel like it's another reason for people to be outraged. I'm like, it's really not. People should be outraged about the gas bills going up £1,000. Like, that's what they should be outraged about.
The real truth of it is somewhere in between, isn't it? Because it's like, it isn't great to take costs and say, well, fuck it, we'll put them onto the consumer. Of course, that's not an ideal world. They'll have done marketing research. But the cold, hard truth of it is these things are fucking impossible to find still. Like, I have seen once an Xbox Series X in the flesh in a shop, right? I have never seen, frankly, or heard anyone else who has seen a PlayStation 5 where these things are 2 years old. Yeah. And you still can't buy one. I can't go on Amazon right now and buy a digital PS5, for example. The cold, hard truth of it is this fake outrage, isn't it? It is that anger that doesn't really exist, and it's just for clout. Because the truth of the matter is, if people were angry enough, they'd actually do something. It's probably people who already own PS5 outraged on behalf of people who now have to pay more. And those people will pay the extra to get their console anyway. Like, it is
that's what I said, just in a less mild-mannered way.
I didn't think... Well, you know me, you both know me, there are so many things to be upset about in the world.
Yeah, this is
and like... Hang on, 1 minute everyone's moaning about the fact, God of War's coming out and it's available on PlayStation 4, and I'm absolutely outraged about such an I bought a brand new PlayStation 5 and I can pay them 4. And then next thing they're moaning because the PS5 is more expensive. Well, which is it? Do you want the fucking thing or not? Like, I'm with you there. Like, there's so much. There's so much going on, like, in the world that this, like, I can't do that. I can't be the pretend podcast host and be angry about it, because if you go off social media, no one gives a fuck. And like,
no, this is it. And I there's plenty more things to be.
I thought you were going to say plenty more fish in the sea, and I don't know why, because it would have been so...
I mean, there probably are, but like, there's more things to be worried about in the world than this. If all you've got to worry about...
Remember COVID? That was...
if all you've got to worry about is 30 quid extra for a PS5, I want your life.
Oh, what a life.
Quite frankly, because what a life. So, yeah.
And look, if all else fails, become a games journalist, get it all free.
Well, that's the other thing. And then if you are feeling sad, play Islets or Tinykin, because they're fucking great.
Yeah, but they cost
money.
But
not Saints Row. That'll make it worse.
Is that the end of this? Or has Lyle got anything he wants to add? Or
no, I've already got a PS5. They can put the price up by £300 for all I care. Mine's downstairs.
So fucking to the rest of the world. I love it.
Okay, I just play the jingle after that.
Yeah.
I didn't know if he was going to go that way or not. Anyway, here's the jingle.
It's time. It's time. Listen, correspondence. Listen. It's time. Listen, correspondence.
And that is kind of the podcast for this week. Thank you very much to G-Town Steve, who did produce the jingle that we're using this week for Listener Correspondence in cooperation with myself as the video production editor. But the hard work was in making the music, trust me. That was the easy bit, was the green screening Chris out, and that was fun. Thank you very much again, Steve. Thank you to everyone who's been here for the podcast live. There's Mikhail, Kieran, Chris Hyde apparently as well. Fucking...
I interact.
Yeah.
I'm
you're on the podcast, you can just interact by replying with your voice.
I'm head of social media, so I've got to get involved.
Someone's got to do it, because I refuse. Thank you very much to Chris and Lyle, obviously. Thank you to all of our Patreons who support us on there, and who we chat to in Discord a lot. Exclusive podcasts coming up. Lots more in the works, and yeah, just lots of stuff. Patreon.com/GodIsAGeek. social media's got us geek. We're on TikTok. We've posted one video on TikTok. That's a scary thought, isn't it? And more coming soon. So, keep your eyes peeled and come back next week when we'll have another podcast, probably. I don't know what we're talking about right now. The Last of Us by then? Can't remember. The embargo, we talked about it last week, but if not, that'll be the week after, probably. Thanks again to you guys and to everybody else. We will speak to you next week or whenever you choose to listen. Bye-bye for now.